Even know where my phone is. Hello, we're live. Hi, my name is Haroon Rabbani. Welcome to the Haroon Rabbani podcast. I'm here with my dear friend Dr. Ashish Porth, Ayurvedic doctor, health expert, fertility expert myself. I focus, well, as well as anything health issues, my big focus is reversing type 2 diabetes. Today, it is the 19th of July, time of recording. We're in the UK and people are stressed up like crazy. They're absolutely stressed up because today has been officially the hottest day of the year in the UK, of course, at 38 degrees Celsius. And it's important to understand. I know the British like to talk about weather, but trust me, a lot of people from America and India think 38 degrees, that's nothing. But there's something strange about British heat. You feel like you're dying. And today was also my son's graduation, so we were sweating buckets. And so it's important. Where I am now, I'm actually literally next to my fireplace. You can see the reflection of my lighting here. I'm next to my fireplace, sitting on the floor. Ashish, where are you sitting on? You're sitting on the floor as well.
I'm standing because I can't sit right now. It's so hot.
Okay, good. And I'm not kidding you. Here's a bowl of water. You can't see it properly, but it's got ice in there. It's got a flannel in there, and I'm going to use that to cool me down. Now she's going to help cool herself down now. So I would love for you, if you have questions regarding chronic stress, make sure you type it in and ask us away. And if we're able to see the questions, answer them, we will do. So we'll talk about the heat and how to deal with it a bit later. But now, without further ado, Ashish, as a doctor, chronic stress, I mean, what are the consequences of, I mean, I'm not talking about, well, what is chronic stress, just in case people don't know what it is. Can you give some kind of definition?
Good evening, everyone, and hi, Harun. So, chronic stress. Why does stress become chronic? So, there is good stress and bad stress. We do need some stress, which we call eustress or good stress, so that otherwise we will not be as motivated or as inspired to do things in life. You know, if you have a lion running behind you, you need to be stressed out of it so that you can save your life. So, there is that stress, but that is acute stress. It should be there for a limited amount of time and then it goes away. However, it is a modern day phenomenon that we have what we call stress day in, day out. We are stressed about something or our perception of that particular event, which keeps happening every day. And we have more chronic stress now. People used to have more fight or flight mode historically, like a lot of events, or we were hunter gatherers and we had to protect ourselves, but that is not there anymore. So we are pretty safe, but we have modern day life stresses. So stress becomes chronic when it is there every day or something that you perceive to be stressful. Yeah. So that's also important to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to go even deeper into the definition, the two types of stress that most people are aware of, maybe not by their names, is eustress, EU stress, which is the good stuff. You go to the gym and you practice exercises. If you didn't have eustress, you would not grow your muscles. There's no point in going to the gym. Same with if you're running, you're trying to improve your cardiovascular health. If you go to the sauna, you need the eustress. So that eustress, it doesn't work, whatever it is you're trying to do. So what we're talking about is distress, and it sounds quite severe. Well, the problem is it is severe. So what are the health implications you found with your clients as a doctor? What are the consequences of distress affecting your clients?
Crazy stuff, because I deal mainly with fertility or women's health, and where is the stress impacting? Is impacting the hormones, it's impacting the blood sugar level, as you know, and it is impacting the performance, sexual performance. So the stress is also affecting the fertility. So it's affecting the eggs and the sperm's quality. And we have studies to show that stress is an exaggerating factor, even if we cannot fully pinpoint that, okay, stress caused it, but it definitely exaggerates. And then the whole issue of certain chronic conditions, painful conditions, whether they are psychologically painful or they are physically painful, they make you distressed. If you have pain daily some kind of pain, or if you are in psychological pain of not being able to conceive every single day and you're thinking about it and going over and over about it, that then cause you feeling distressed, where you yeah, it's psychological pain is so hard to describe, and that kind of distress is so hard to describe, but you feel that you are not 100% happy, you cannot concentrate on things.
In what I found in every single chronic disease, chronic means it's been there for 12 months or more. So those one most important underlying factor, there's a number of them for people with the kind of people I deal with, people with type 2 diabetes and any other disease, is it's chronic stress. And it actually affects your ability to uptake sugar. So, of course, you're going to potentially show type 2 diabetes symptoms, and it affects your brain health as well. It actually damages your brain. And over time, chronic, over time, you start showing symptoms um, of people with Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is to do with the hippocampus, so your short-term memory. And so what's going to happen is that people with Alzheimer's disease, which is a brain issue, have got insulin resistance, and they've got, in essence, all the symptoms of people with type 2 diabetes. And
Yeah.
in fact, 80% of people with Alzheimer's have got type 2 diabetes. And so the chronic stress does not help. It accentuates something which is already a terrible condition. But we also want to not separate out, but make a distinction that although, and we both emphasize that people talk about mind-body connection, actually, chronic stress isn't just caused by you perceiving things that aren't going your way. It could be caused by the food that you're eating. If you're somebody who's not sleeping well, so what are the conditions besides psychological can you think of that you think, yeah, this will affect people's lives?
uh, every single thing in your life is going to affect. Diet is the main one, where it is not going to help if you're not eating the right kind of diet, and that stress is going to be on your gut first, and then it is going to show up in other diseases that you're having. If there is pain and if you're not eating the right kind of food, then the pain is going to be exaggerated. If you have got knee pain, or if you have got arthritis, for example, we know that when the weather becomes very hot, when the weather becomes very muggy as well, when there is a lot of humidity in the weather, that starts to affect the joints of arthritic people. So every action that you have, and also the environment around you, have a direct impact on that stressful situation that you have, and it is going to enhance it. Also, if you're not sleeping very well, and there are studies that they have done on depriving people of sleep for a week, and people going really crazy in the sense that there is memory loss, they can't concentrate, they're feeling agitated, they're feeling angry. So sleep has impact on that. Also, if your mind is not restful, yeah. So I know that you have asked me about actual, maybe physical things that cause chronic stress, which is food, your lifestyle, your sleep, and how indulging you are in different things, whether it's food, whether it's sex, whether it's something else in your life that you indulge a lot in, maybe loud music, for example, right? If you work in that kind of environment, you are DJ, for example, say, and but it is not really good for your system, maybe you suffer from migraines, then it is going to cause you direct effect. Yeah.
Yesterday, I was had the privilege of presenting workshops, six different workshops to teenagers, so year 10, which is about 15 years of age, in the center of Birmingham. And again, it was the hottest day yesterday, and today's even hotter. And I swear to you, the state of the poor young adults, they were like absolutely looking shattered. And some of them were just looked like they were going to pass out. Others started getting very agitated and angry, so they were having a lot of conflict. And I think it was actually, I enjoyed being there because watching them, because I learned a lot, and also giving this information to them that it's okay, because it's hot, you feel the way you do. And it's very important to recognize
Hmm.
that if you're all fired up, all heated up, you're going to be also fired up in here. So the 5 causes we're going to talk about, we're going to go into detail now, and I'll just give you an overview. The 5 real causes of stress are: number 1, your constitution, which definitely, you're going to hear from Ashish in a minute about that. Food, Ashish already talked about. Relationships is a very big one. If you're in a bit of a crappy relationship, you're going to be stressed a lot. Um, the lifestyle you mentioned, and the mindset. Let's talk about, it's hot weather. Let's talk about body constitution. How does the different body constitutions um, stress people at different times in different situations?
Absolutely. So right now, people who are pitta, they are just absolutely going crazy. The heat is coming out from every pore of their body. Body constitution, as we know from Ayurvedic point of view, we have 3: Vata, Pitta, Kapha, and then we have the mixture of them: Vata, Pitta, Pitta, Kapha, Kapha, Vata. And the quantity of Vata, Pitta, how much it is in somebody, is what makes it really unique. So Vata and Kapha are cold by nature. So if you have Vata constitution or Kapha constitution, you're going to get less affected by the heat. Of course, you're going to feel warm, but you're not going to feel warm at the point where you're breaking out. Perhaps, you have got really flushed skin, or you get heat stroke, or that you pass out with the heat, which will be Pitta people who already have so much warmth in them, and then the weather is also warm, so they're just boiling even more. So it's important to understand your constitution, where your body and mind is. So you will also find that people who are pitta right now are the ones who are getting really angry as well. They're getting really agitated because they don't know what to do. They don't know how to cope with this heat, as compared to vata, who are getting more frustrated, and then kapha, who are warm but they're enjoying it because they are warm and moist by nature, so they're just enjoying the heat as it is. So it is, if we know the constitution, then we are less likely to be just going into this frenzy.
So if you want to find out about your constitution, by the way, then we're going to put up a link after the recording, after the live
Yeah.
podcast. We'll put a recording and you can go into Ashish's website. And so, first of all, hello to all you regular listeners, including Palmy and John. Thank you for your support. I know we're building our audience here. But what I want to do is, so this is a Haroon Rabbani podcast, but it's not just Haroon Rabbani, it's with Dr. Ashish. And if it's okay with you, Ashish, I want to make a bit of an announcement. We're going to set up a podcast. I won't mention the name yet, but it's going to focus on natural medicine, just a hint. So it's going to be natural medicine, and I'd love for you all to support it. Here's why. Look around you. We've had a damn pandemic. I need to say pandemic. No conspiracies there. Pandemic. We've had the pandemic here, and you've seen the state of the world and what's being put out there is not working. So we want to bring in, it's not just going to be Ashish and I, we'll bring in special guests when we feel the time's right to bring them on, and to share with you ideas, strategies, and ways for you to take care of your health. The reality is this: if you're in the UK, for example, the national health system is broken. You've seen the political situation. I mean, who the heck can you trust? In the US, it's even worse. Canada, it's bad. Wherever you look, natural health has to be the way forward, because it means that it puts the power and the ability to respond, the responsibility back into your hands, not by a nanny state, not by a totalitarian government, not by people who are trying to profit from you. It's okay to make some profits, but really what's going on is taking the piece. So that's my little rant. So anyway, you're listening to the Haroon Rabbani podcast for the time being, with myself, Haroon Rabbani, and Dr. Ashish Paul. So number 1 cause of stress is actually you operating outside, or not being aware of your constitution. So what are the things that people do? Like, say, for example, a pitta person, which is, fiery energy person, what do they do to cause themselves stress? Is it because they eat too much fiery food, or I mean, what goes on with it?
Yes. So that's a good point. So if they are doing things which are fiery by nature. Say, for example, they are in a bad relationship, or they are in an argumentative scenario, or they are in an office where they are not really enjoying it, so it's causing friction. Whenever there is friction, there is heat that is produced. So whenever you are not happy in your thoughts or actions that you're doing, you might be working in an office but you're not happy about it, so that situation is going to cause a bit of boiling inside, that you are, thinking to yourself, why am I stuck in this job, or why am I stuck in this relationship, and feeling that heat as well. I'm not saying it's only going to happen today, but weather is not going to help if you are stuck with that person in, say, in the house, and you don't really like each other. So that's how it is going to affect you. And if the foods, if you already are a fiery person but you don't know, and you're eating spicy curry, or the vindaloo curry for today, then you had it, because then it's going to come out of everywhere, the heat, I mean. So it is your actions, and also warming actions. For example, I know that people who are still probably having shower with warm water, even in this heat, because they just have never had probably cold shower, or they don't like the idea of having really cold water on their body. Whereas if you are pitta, you know that you need to calm down, you need your senses to calm down. So that's how it will affect if you're not eating the right kind of food in this scenario. So hot foods of all kinds,
Yeah.
spices, and hot even by temperature will make you hotter.
Wow. So that's interesting, because a couple of things here you mentioned, and we'll touch upon relationships already. So a couple of my family members had an issue. Both of those family members are very fiery person. A couple of days ago, when the temperature started to soar, they were both tired. They both came home together and just joking around. From one thing led to another. When you get fiery person in a fiery situation,
Yeah.
you get an explosion, and you're going to have conflict. So again, be very, very wary of your nature. The other thing is, you mentioned about cooling down. So I have a bit of a fiery nature. I've just returned from my son's graduation, long drive, air conditioning not working. First thing I did was go to the bathroom, fill up the bath with water, like just to cover my feet level, and just sat there with my soaking my feet in freezing cold water. Oh my God, it was so relaxing. Whereas yesterday, after doing all those workshops, I came home, laid down on the bed upstairs,
Yeah.
and I felt like I was going to pass out, because the heat just went to another level, even though I was trying to rest. So you've got to be, clever about these things, and be fully aware. And so, just touching on the Vata, which is, and again, please visit Dr. Ashish's website. We'll put the link on later on, so you need to come back and go on there, and you find out what your constitution is. So a Vata person, what would they typically do which will make things more stressful for them?
So Vata people are in their head anyway. They are considered, they have more thoughts, or they fire those thoughts much more aggressively. They don't have gap in their thoughts, one after the other, or the hundreds of thoughts in a second. So what they need to understand is that they need to have those times where they are not thinking, yeah, or not engaging in any kind of thinking. They need to be more mindful of having increasing that gap, which happens when you do breath work. Breath, when you slow your breath down, it causes that gap between your thoughts. And if you are hot in this environment, your breath is already a little bit hyper, because you're breathing a little faster because of the heat. So you are going to be even more agitated and frustrated in your mind. So there's a difference between how Vata and Pitta respond, because Vata will be more frustrated, Pitta is more angry. So there's that difference, very slight difference, but there is difference.
Wow, it's interesting, because I touch both both
Yeah.
areas of Vata and Pitta, and so you're 100% correct. So Vata is more likely to create more anxiety for themselves. What about a Kapha person, which is people who are a lot more stout and solid? What do they tend to do to agitate or create chronic stress for themselves besides food? What kind of behaviors?
The chronic stress for them, they look very, spaced out and chilled out, that they don't have any stress in the world. But their stress comes from being stuck in a situation, because kapha people get stuck in that. That's by nature how they are. They're heavy. They can get stagnant if they don't have enough inspiration in their life of vata and pitta in their bodies as well. So if they're eating very heavy foods, a lot of potatoes, a lot of carbs, a lot of cheese, then they're going to feel that heaviness physically, and they're going to feel that heaviness mentally as well. So that is going to cause distress if, say, for example, they become heavier in terms of weight, or they become stagnant in terms of they cannot shift their mind about something. They are stuck on that particular either relationship, or they're stuck in their job and they cannot move out of that scenario. So that's how they become stressful. When kapha are stressed out, they become depressed, because that's the nature of their constitution. They're not going to get angry. They're not going to get agitated like vata do, but they're going to get sad. They get low mood and they get very sad and depressed.
Wow, that is phenomenal. So kapha people, do they tend to be, so I'm just thinking, I mean, because I'm not an expert in that field that you're in, do they tend to be more towards diabetes than the other constitutions? Just
Yes,
given, yes, okay, okay.
absolutely. Yeah, because they are by nature eating those foods as well. And unless they are very aware that they need to exercise, they need to eliminate certain foods. So kapha person, even if they have smaller piece of cheese as compared to a vata person, is going to make more difference in kapha person. It's going to make them more prone towards diabetes, for sure.
Oh, wow, wow. So it's so important, my friends, to get to know yourself, your body. So how about, let's talk about mindset, the third cause, mindset,
Yeah.
and chronic stress. So how does mindset play a role in chronic stress?
Big one. I mean, I'm very big on mindset anyway, because we know from Ayurvedic point of view, every single disease, I keep probably repeating myself in every episode we do, is that it's psychosomatic. Every single disease which you think is physical, it's not only physical. It first manifests in your mind, then it starts to actually it's first manifest in your aura, in your energetic field, and then in your mind, and then it starts to manifest in your body. So mindset is all about how you think. What is your worldview? What have you learned growing up? How does the world run for you? Are you a pessimistic person? Do you see opportunity in everything, or do you see the problem in everything? And that has an impact on how you behave, right? So if I'm very positive person, and I see outside there is no gray sky, it's very clear sky, I'm not going to carry an umbrella with me, because there's no reason to carry an umbrella with me, right? I'm a positive person. I can see outside how the weather looks like. But a pessimistic person is going to think, what if it rains, right? And they're going to be prepared with the raincoat. They're going to be prepared with an umbrella. And that is the difference, how that can become stressful. Yeah. Yes, it is good to be prepared, but when you then over prepare, or you become OCD, for example. OCD is one of the things, when you are too anxious about future, is you become obsessive to that point. So mindset is crucial, how we think, what our value system is, which is much more deeper into us. Yeah.
Absolutely. My main work that I focus on, and the system that I created myself, which is called the Total Heart Transformation Method, THT method. Here's what I found, that, for example, this is the case with all diseases, but I work specifically with people with type 2 diabetes. To reverse type 2 diabetes technically is easy, meaning calorie deficit, exercise, meditation. Technically, it's difficult. But the people who have it aren't able to do it so easily, simply because of the mindset, which is driven by the childhood trauma. And unless you fix, or unless you heal the trauma, then in reality, the reverse, it's like dieting. You go on a diet, you lose the weight, you gain back the weight. So reversing type 2 diabetes, reversing any kind of condition, is like the fertility that you work with. People come to you with fertility issues, they can reverse it, but unless they work on their mindset, they might have the baby now, but later on it comes back, and you're passing it
Yeah.
generation after generation. So, for example, people um, from the Indian subcontinent, over the space of 100, 150 years, they had so many different famines that trauma has been passed down by generation after
Mm.
generation. And this is why it's many multiples times more likely that if you're a person from South Asia, even eating the right same food as someone, say, from the West, you are much more prone to developing type 2 diabetes. The good news is, and I really want to emphasize the good news is this, and this is caused by epigenetics. That means beyond your genes. And
Yeah.
so if you've got these traumas that you're carrying and you're passing on from generation to generation, you, my friend, you, don't wait for the next generation, have got the possibilities and the capability of reversing it. But it must go back down to your values, your insecurities, your
Yeah.
traumas. You work on that, and here's the thing, you will find that actually there's a gift in all of them. So every single person who I've worked with over the last decade or so, who's worked deep with their work, they found that their trauma that has caused them that situation
Mm.
actually tended to be a gift, which then showed them that this is what they're here to do on the planet. This is getting super deep, but guess what? We're not here to work on the superficial, but the super
No.
deep. So, all right. So, mindset. The other thing about mindset, you talked about it, breath work, but also meditation. I think everybody in the world knows meditation is good for you. And I'll be honest with you, here's a challenge I have with meditation. There are some people who believe sitting on your backside, meditating, oming all day, without eating the right food, still eating cake, lots of it, no exercise, no yoga, no breath work, they think that will fix the problem. What are your thoughts?
No chance. And I've seen a lot of spiritual people quite obese because they, yes, you are meditating, but you still need your body to exercise. It's a physical thing. You still need to do that. So no, that is not correct. You need the mindset. That is one part of the puzzle. You also need to do exercise. That is another part of the puzzle. Then you need to work on your diet as well, and also the circumstance that you live in, your home environment, and the foods that you buy. So it's a combination of all of those. Whereas if you do have the mindset, then you are more motivated, you are more inspired to make all those changes. Okay. So yeah.
So they're the three. So we've covered what? Constitution, we've covered mindset, we kind of touched upon food. Let's go back into food again.
Yeah.
So obviously, coming back from constitution, if you eat foods which are doesn't support your constitution, so if you're a pitta person, you're eating lots of fiery food, that doesn't help. What are the kind of foods people should be aware of which helps them to de-stress?
Um, well, we have what we call, in terms of food or in terms of how it affects your energy, is foods that we call sattvic foods, foods that have high prana or high energy in them, organic foods, fresh foods, foods which are made simply, not overcooked, not processed foods. So we have sattvic foods, tamasic foods, and rajasic foods. We have three types. So this is now going a little bit more technical into how food energy is. But I would say if we just at least start with eating for your constitution, that is the first start. And then how you eat that food, how you cook that food, that all has, a factor playing a part in this. For example, there has been studies done on when somebody is cooking food, what kind of energy they put into while they're cooking that food. So if you're cooking with a mind which is really distressed mind, you're passing that energy on to the person who's going to eat that food.
100%.
Yeah.
Oh, so okay, so one thing I wanted to add is this, that consciousness is everything and everywhere and every when, and every sentient being, every uh, plant, every animal, every insect, every human has consciousness. Water has consciousness. It's a different topic altogether, but let's bring in that that topic. There's been hundreds and hundreds of research done, on the consciousness of water and the ability for it to change its crystalline structure and so on. And
Yeah.
so if water has consciousness, and if you look in nature, we've got to always use nature as our guide. If you look in nature, you will see that water goes, first of all, they go in spirals. You know that because when you watch water go down a bathtub or a shower basin,
It's going
what does
round
it
and
do?
round.
It's going round and round. When it falls down a waterfall, it doesn't come straight down, it actually spirals. In that spiraling, actually, it how can I say, it destroys pathogens. So actually drinking water from a waterfall is the most amazing thing to do. Challenge we have is this, that in modern plumbing systems, water is going at very high speed at straight angles, hitting an angle, going in a different direction. It's
Mm.
picking up information as it's going along. And that information is stuff we drink. And this is why in ancient cultures and relatively ancient cultures, we all bless our food and bless our drink. Now, did you know, for example, in the most developed in monasteries, Buddhist monasteries, that
Yeah.
it's only the most evolved meditators amongst the monks who are allowed to go and cook food,
Cook food.
because they consider that food is medicine. And this is not new terminology. Food is medicine. Hippocrates says that, let thy food be medicine and thy medicine be food. Food
Yeah.
is medicine. So the best thing for me, when I've run my retreat, I don't let people come into my kitchen to touch the food unless I know they've done a lot of work on themselves.
Right.
That's the first thing. But the other thing is, of course, what can you do? Well, if you're somebody following a spiritual practice, religious practice, chant, pray, whatever it is you
Yeah.
do, it will make a difference. It will make a huge difference. Now, the way you treat food, if your food is treated with disdain, with disgust, and just disrespectfully, that energy is going to come inside of you. You're going to carry that energy. I know those people who are just left brain logical and constantly referring to purely science won't get it. I respect you. If you don't get it, when it's your time, you will. So processed foods have zero consciousness. Certain
Yeah.
types of food have lower levels of energy and lower levels of consciousness. This is why we've got to be so mindful. And and for people, they think, oh, I can just eat potatoes and this and that, and from the chip shop or whatever. We have such a variety, thousands of different vegetables
Yeah.
that we could be eating. And
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
just to mention one point, I'm not aware of any studies. I'm pretty sure there are studies on that, but they say the food cooked by a loving parent or loving guardian or loving person, especially food cooked by mothers, because mothers are I'm generalizing here, there are lots of fathers, I'm sure, who cook food as well. Well, with that love that you have, what a parent has for their child is probably the most unadulterated love that is there in the world. And when you have that, for example, everybody can remember what their mother's food was like, or the food that they had in their family home was the best, even though somebody else probably could cook that dish 100 times better. But it's that love that you cannot replace. So, not sure of any studies whether they have done, but is the energy of the food is crucial. Ayurveda talks about how you should be eating, and I have briefly touched, I think last time as well, the utensils that you cook food in. Utensils have their own energy that they bring into it. And yes, you can chant, you can hum, you can play music, you can play different sounds to raise the vibration of your food as well.
Absolutely. And it does make a difference. Just give it a go. Why the heck would you want to stress? And when you eat, don't have a mobile phone next to your food. When you
Yeah.
eat, don't eat whilst watching television. That's disrespecting the food. I know we're emphasizing food, but guess what? If food is the reason why so many people are ill, that's a bit of a hint for you. So moving on from food, let's and again, everything we talk about, we can just take one topic and dive deep, like ultra deep, and just one element, just the
Yeah.
water alone, and consuming water alone is a massive topic in its own right, and there is plenty of research out there. The next thing is, of course, the fourth one is lifestyle. So we talked about sleep. That makes a big difference to stress. Just imagine this: you go to sleep one night very late, and then you wake up super early, have you noticed your mood? You feel groggy, you got a bit of brain fog, and you're a bit more snappy. And when you've heard of the saying, making snap decisions, guess what? Your micro decisions that you make daily create your day-to-day reality. So how do you think, what kind of decisions will you make when you're in a calm state versus when you're in a snappy state? So sleep alone makes a big difference. What other than food and constitution, what other lifestyle issues should people be considering to change or to develop, evolve, to help reduce chronic stress?
Right. I think some of it comes from or will be linked to your constitution. Say, for example, if you are a person, not even constitution, but the habits that you picked up when you were growing up, if you are someone who does everything last minute, okay, and then it becomes an issue after a while. If you have, say, for example, you do everything last minute on your own is fine, but when you do everything last minute and you have two kids with you, then that is going to cause an issue, because that the kids are going to delay anyway, and the time scale that you had thought for yourself is going to be 4 times what you thought it's going to take. So understanding how you are as a person, are you a planner? You plan really well and allow for that time, so that your day runs at a good pace, and there is some time in between where you can sit and have a cup of tea, or even sit and meditate or be mindful, so that you give yourself that space where you are not just doing one thing after the other. Because there is obviously, we know a lot of people are burnt out, and a lot of people have this what we call fibromyalgia. There is ME, that is comes from burning out, where your nervous system is just so tired and exhausted from running around every single day, and then body says, okay, I am done now, I am not going to lift a finger.
Oh, so I don't know if the screen's frozen there. Okay, so one of the things I get my clients to do is, and they find it challenging because they've never done it for themselves, which is, I say, create a me time power hour. What do I mean by that? Find at least, seriously, no kidding. If you got chronic stress, you can't avoid this. It's up to you, of course, but you need to do this. Create 1 hour. You don't have to do it all in one go. You can do it in two goes, but you need to create 2 30-minute slots in the day where it's only about you. When I say when it's only about you, the best thing you can do is, first of all, no social media, no television, no movies. That's the first thing. Preferably on your own, because really this only works when you're on your own. My own personal preference, I'm just giving you my personal preference, go for a walk in nature.
Yeah.
Meditate, lay in the bath. But when you're laying in the bath, don't watch the news. One of the things that people do is they're watching the news, they're listening to the media, reading there's a lot of crap going on in the world. All of that stuff needs to go out the window for that 1 hour a day. You got 20, my friend, you got 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day, just like everybody else. And 1 minute gone today, you will never get it back. 24 hours goes away. A lot of people say, especially when they've got kids and so on, they say, oh, I don't have time for myself. Okay, here's what the average person used to do. This is in the UK. US, double it. In the UK, the average person in the UK spends, I'm talking about adults now, youngsters sometimes way more. Average person spends 2 hours a day watching television. Okay, you might say 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 1 hour there. 2 hours a day, 365 days of the year. When you do the maths, you realize that's like watching television back to back for 30 days non-stop. But current day facts, statistics are 4 hours a day, which includes television and social media. Actually, for some people, there's way more than that. 4 hours a day surfing or watching stuff, could be YouTube and so on, or TikTok, whatever it is. 4 hours, that's equivalent to losing 2 months of your life just being entertained. And you say you don't have time. It's not that you don't have time. The truth is, you've not made you important enough. There's no BS about it. You're not making yourself important enough. If you'll find those people who are super healthy, you'll find that they make their health their number one priority. Those people who are super rich but maybe unhealthy have decided that their money is more important. Those people who got great relationships, not so great health, not so much money, they made their relationship number one priority. Regardless of what you do, if your health is suffering now, that's your body telling you you need to make it a priority. It's not me telling you, it's your body telling you. So lifestyle includes sleep, includes making bit more me time. And the other thing is, of course, is conflict. Right now, we mentioned earlier on, right at the beginning, we talked about how situation like this, where it's 38 degrees Celsius, very hot basically, or it could be very cold, and you're somebody who's agitated easily, especially by the weather, or you're feeling physically frustrated, someone else is physically frustrated. Best thing to do is not have any conversations that trigger each other, because everyone does lose their mind. For some people, of course, and this has been recorded over many centuries, it's not new stuff, and it still happens today. When it comes to the full moon energy, remember the full moon affects the waves of the world. So with full moon, exacerbates, magnifies the tidal movements. We know that. So does the new moon. Full moon does it in a different way. And in fact, farmers plant certain seeds during the full moon and other seeds during the new moon. That's a different conversation again. So the full moon, your body is made out of water, 70% approximately by mass and volume. But according to one of the cutting edge scientists, and I forget his name from the top of my head, from University of Washington, he's written one of the books called The Fourth Phase of Water. His name will come to me in a bit. And he says, if you were to take every molecule in your body and put them side by side, it's not possible. If you're able to do that, you will find that 99% of all the molecules in your body is water. So you are more like jellyfish than you can possibly imagine. And so when there is heat going on, when there's a full moon going on, and you see all the waters of the world being affected, do you think for a second you will be affected? Remember, your body and your mind are not separate, they're one. So you must be a lot more mindful. And it's not about blaming the full moon. No, it's an opportunity for you to take a step back and say, hey, I'm getting triggered because my anger's getting up. You discover that your dominant energy, emotion is anger. Or you might say you're a lot more sadder, you're grieving a lot more. Well, that's a great opportunity, because if your dominant energy, emotion is anger, in Ayurveda, what organ is that, Ashish? I'm putting you on the spot there.
Oh, well, that's liver. We have liver involved, pancreas will be involved, spleen will be involved, because that's where the fire is sitting.
Yeah, so that's an indication. And in Chinese medicine, so this is not just about Indian medicine, in Chinese medicine, they talk about, for example, if you're grieving, if you're sad, it's an indication that you have a lung health issue. And so many of my clients who have lung health issues, well, not many of them, all of them have issues with letting go of grief. One particular client, I won't mention her name, she lost one of her pets, and it devastated her way beyond any comprehension. And her lung health, it's a very serious condition, is directly correlated to her inability to let go of grief. Yes, we all grieve. We have to go through a grieving process. But there's a balance at some point, whether you lost a child, and I'm not saying I know how that feels. I don't want to imagine how that feels. At some point, it's important to let go of the grief and live your life further. So that brings us to the fifth one. So to repeat, we talked about constitution, food, mindset, lifestyle, and the fifth one, relationships. Let's talk about relationships. Why would relationships cause stress, Ashish? if at all?
Oh, that's a £1,000,000 question, Arun. A relationship, we are relational beings. We relate to everything. That's how we are. And it's not just only romantic or partner relationships. We are talking about relationship between employee and employer, relationship between parents and children, all kinds of relationships. And relationships are hard to maneuver because we are human beings, and we have emotions, we have temperaments, we have minds, we have different thoughts, and when we don't understand each other, we clash, and that will become a cause of stress. Some people can talk about their emotions. Most of the people cannot talk about their emotion. They cannot put right words to their emotions. Sometimes they don't want to offend other people, and that's when relationships become cause of distress. It's actually probably the biggest cause of distress for most people, is because of relationships, how their partner is talking to them, how they find every time they talk to their partner, they're fighting with each other, or one of the child is really misbehaving and they don't know what to do about it. So relationships are huge, and we are our relationships. So we don't exist in vacuum.
What's I think a lot more people are understanding this, and Dr. Gabor Mate has written extensively about it and spoken about it. I actually got to meet him a couple of months back, and he talks about that all illnesses are based on childhood trauma. And the most important significant relationship, just think, the most significant relationship when you're born starts off with your mother and your father. So if you take, for example, if you take a little girl, has an amazing relationship with daddy. She's 0 to 3 years old, and daddy's loving, caring, all the wonderful things. So this beautiful relationship. She gets to 6 years of age, and she's about to have a 7th birthday, and daddy says, I'm going to come and build you that dollhouse on your birthday. He's bought an IKEA dollhouse, right? So he promises that after work he'll come and do that. So after work, it's 5 o'clock, and she thought daddy will be back home early. He's not. All her friends are there, and she has this party with her friends, and the cakes and everything are out, and they're having fun. All these kids there, their parents are there. Daddy's not home. It's 6 o'clock. She's like, oh, where's daddy? Cake's been cut, and they've had the cake. 7, 8 o'clock, she's in bed and she's crying. 7:30, oh sorry, 7:30, 8 o'clock, he comes in. She's in bed, and she's kind of like, her eyes are red. He goes to her and he apologizes. Oh, I'm so sorry. I got caught up in work. She didn't know at that time he nearly lost it, nearly got fired from his job. Or maybe he has got fired. She said, oh, but you promised. And he said, no, I'm sorry. And hugs and cuddles her. And then she continues crying. And then he snaps at her. Oh, my God. I told you I was stuck at work. And in that moment, the child shuts up. Trauma kicks in that quickly. She's now 7. She realizes, which is not true, but that's a perception. She realizes, daddy loves me when I want him there most, when I need him most. He's not there with me. She gets to 17, 27, 37, and 87. She will be magnetically attracted somehow, sabotage wise. She will attract and draw into her life amazing guys who are loving, caring, etc. But when it comes to the crunch, when she's in need of him the most, they will walk out on him. And she will constantly do that until she fixes that childhood trauma. And it's the same with people with type 2 diabetes. There are certain conditions going on as a result of the relationships. And again, we'll do another episode completely on that. So the most powerful thing you can do is working holistically. Naturally means this: you work on the mental level, the physical level, the spiritual level, very importantly the relationship level, because you have a relationship with food, you have a relationship with your sleep, you have a relationship with your body, you have a relationship with your parents, you have a relationship with everything and everybody, including with money. But the most important relationship you have is the one with yourself. If the relationship with yourself is self-loathing, then it will show up externally, always. So the external stuff going on in your life right now, whatever it is, gives you an indication of there's something going on inside. So to clarify, just because there's an economic depression here, and a lot of people are in denial, there's an economic, I'm an economist by education, just there's an economic depression going on here, there's energy crisis going on there. Of course that's going to wind you up and stir you up. However, how you react, not respond, how you react, how you get triggered, gives you an indication of the way you've been taught to handle life from the very young age. And this is exactly the first 7 years of your life.
Yep.
You have this blueprint, this map from which you operate the rest of your life. And so when you're trying to deal with chronic stress, there's one thing dealing with all the amazing stuff we've talked about, and that will help you significantly. But until you shift that relationship you have with yourself, goes back to
Yep.
childhood trauma, you're not going to create permanence. And I can promise you it works, because if you look at many people, including myself, I grew up in a poverty stricken background. I was the first person to get into education. My son's just had his graduation today. And we've shifted at so many levels, but I had to work very hard on myself. I know Dr. Ashish has done the same. And anybody who's achieved greatness or on the way to greatness had to work on themselves. So that's what I encourage you to do. So let's briefly, well, is there anything you want to comment on, actually, because I've just gone on a rant there, Ashish.
No, it makes sense, absolutely. And I agree totally that we need to look at the patterns. Actually, how your life has been, whatever your age, when you become conscious or when you start to realize that, why am I behaving like this? For example, I used to react on certain things. Why do I behave like that? I was brought up in an environment which was very pessimistic. There was a different relationship with money. I have shifted those things very actively, have been working on myself, and also personal professional development that I've been doing since I started doing my herbal medicine degree. But for that, you have to be so aware of who you are as a person. How do you behave in a certain scenario? If somebody had told me this 20 years ago, why are you reacting that way? I would never speak to that person because I was so unconscious of my behavior. But now I am conscious. If somebody says you behaving like that, and then I trace it back, how am I behaving? Where is it coming from? And that is so crucial what you mentioned. And we have, of course, it goes back down to a lot of things: how we were brought up, what are the value system we were brought up in, and how it is impacting us. Every single thing that we do comes from that foundation. Like you mentioned, you are talking about childhood trauma, I'm talking about values. For example, the value system that you were brought up, even subconsciously, in your parents' house. And then to realize that, okay, if I'm behaving like this, then to be able to address it. And most people don't want to address that. It's very hard to address a behavior because our ego starts to come in the way. How can I be so wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, the thing is, there's so much we can say about the psychology of why people do what they do and
Yeah.
don't do what they should be doing or could be doing. So we'll leave that. But one of the bonuses I want to share with people is there's a couple of other things you can do to deal with your chronic stress. Now, one of the big areas chronic stress clearly affects is your brain health. And so if you're constantly under chronic stress, we mentioned Alzheimer's is one of those dementias, one of those things that you're going to open yourself up for. So a couple of things I strongly recommend beyond what we've already said is, one of them is exercise. So doing something, we talk about yoga, but doing something which is actually cardiovascular orientated. In other words, getting yourself to a state where you're going for a run or doing some kind of exercise which really takes your heart rate to another level, makes you really work your lungs, basically. You got to do that at least once a week on top of all the other work that you do. That is going to help with your brain health, because you're sending rocket fuel to your brain and all your extremities. The other thing, we've talked about it before, is sauna. So the idea of a sauna, and I'm speaking to someone every day about sauna, actually. There's always someone who asks about it. The idea of a sauna is not to go there and feel like, oh my God, this is so relaxing. Well, that means it's not working, because a truly effective sauna, the temperature is going to be between 80 to 100 degrees Celsius. The one that I use goes to about 82 to 85 degrees Celsius. So that's the kind of temperature. The kind of cutoff point is about 20 minutes. So build it up so you're there up to 20 minutes. That will get your stressor hormones working. It will get your cortisol going up, and you will feel uncomfortable. but that's fine because you're training your body, you're sending blood to your brain, and that's going to help in um, killing off the dying cells in your body. It will help in improving your brain health. So consider that, and also supplementation, uh, brain health. A lot of things you can do is have foods that are rich in omega-3 oils, so
Yeah.
avocados and fatty fish. Have maybe take brewer's yeast or supplements which have got the vitamin B complex, and finally zinc. So those are a few things you could do. But my friends, don't don't treat. I'm trying to combine the words stress and treat together. Don't treat chronic stress as some kind of, oh, I'll get over it, it'll be fine.
Yeah.
If you did that, it won't take too long before a chronic disease will set in, and then the work and the battle to overcome it is going to be a lot worse. But if you have got to that stage where the chronic stress is getting to you, please seek advice from an experienced person, whether it's functional medicine, Ayurvedic doctor, or your medical doctor. Get consultation. Please do something about it, because that chronic stress will open you up to so many other diseases later on if you're not
Yeah.
already experiencing it. And the good news is, with chronic stress, it's not good news. The bad news is you can't fix it with a pill. It's chronic. It's a lifestyle situation.
Yeah.
All lifestyle diseases cannot be fixed. No matter what they say, a lifestyle disease, it's in the name, it's to do with your lifestyle. You've got to change your lifestyle. In order to change your lifestyle, you got to change your mindset. You got to change your relationship with yourself. You've got to understand your body. You got to understand what needs to go into your body. You got to understand your mind. Guess what? I've just described the 5 main causes of
You
chronic
did.
stress. So I know it's good, isn't it? So please make sure, before we end, make sure you share this video. Come back to this video, watch it again, make notes. This has been a masterclass in dealing with chronic stress. If you want to find out more about how to work with myself or with Dr. Ashish, you can find us on YouTube, on LinkedIn. You can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, and even TikTok nowadays as well. So contact us directly, and we'll do our best to help you. Is there any final thing you want to say about chronic stress before we end this episode?
Absolutely. You mentioned about supplements. You mentioned about therapies that people can do, like sauna. There are other therapies that are available. Ayurveda is rich of therapies. There is so much you can do for your brain health. Herb wise, there are herbs that you can take which actually generate new nerve cells. So you could take those herbs to prevent the brain damage that is happening in your body. You can also take a lot of herbs to prevent the damage that is happening at the cellular level to you. Not just the supplements that are synthetic supplements. The herbs are much better at supplementing. If you're taking herbs alongside, even if you have to take a supplemental or elemental calcium or iron or something, take herbs with it, because then you have a wholesome nutrition that is going into your body. And then there are therapies, as I mentioned. There are plenty of therapies that you can take to take this chronic stress out of you. But it's going to take some time. If you have taken 10 years to develop that chronic stress, then you have to give yourself at least 2 to 3 years to get out of it. It's not a quick fix where you can take as many medicines, be my guest, take as many medicines as you want from doctors. It won't fix it.
No.
So, yeah, natural therapies, natural herbs have got huge scope, but you got to give it time.
You know, I've got to say this. This is so important because recently I watched a video by a psychiatrist stroke a researcher. He's a writer, and I forget his name. If I can find the video, I'll share it on here. But he talks about psychiatric help, and he talks about the the people who are writing books. He was talking about a medical psychiatric book. I forget the name of it, the psychiatric book, and he talks about that. And he said, a few 60 years ago or something like that, there was only about 127 psychiatric conditions, and then they've doubled that kind of number of conditions that they've added, and they've added it in some cases quite randomly. They use democratic votes to say the boards who created this psychiatric book, they voted in the new conditions without even doing scientific research. What blew my mind, Ashish, this is so important to know. I'm not having a go at anybody, because research has to be funded, and this guy did the research into the pharmaceutical industry and who they are sponsoring most. And you know what they found? The doctors who are being sponsored most, exponentially more than every other specialist, sponsored by pharmaceutical industry
Yeah.
to prescribe pharmaceutical medication, is the psychiatric industry. That's
Yeah.
absolutely terrible as far as I'm concerned. Absolutely terrible, because there are certain conditions that you need psychiatric medication. I get that. I respect that. But so many of the conditions
Yeah.
are totally fixable. It might take a little time. You know, we have in the Western world, we have this, except Norway. Norway is amazing. In the Western world, we have this thing of punishing the disease, fighting the cancer, beating the this and the beating and that. And so, you know, for example, if someone commits a crime in the UK, we punish them by throwing them into jail. And in America, it's the same. And if you murder in some places, you get capital punishment. Well, that's a terrible mindset which says that if you've got a health condition, we're going to throw you into a corner and throw medication at you and try to dumb you down and numb you down. And I think it's the biggest bullshit going. And I think people need to wake up to reality that most diseases, I'm not talking about accidents, I'm not talking about acute conditions where you get infected,
Yeah.
I'm talking about most diseases. A, they're preventable, and B, they're curable, provided you take the right action over a period of time. And so, please, if you have a chronic condition, whatever that condition is, or you got chronic stress, do not give up on yourself. There is so much hope out there for you, but
Yeah.
you have to turn. If you've got the mindset that's saying, as Einstein, the mindset that got you to that chronic health condition, chronic stress condition, that is not the kind of mindset it will take to get you out of it. And this is why it's important you seek help. Go to the professionals, save yourself a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and a lot of lost time that you're going to have, and lost life that you're going to have by just waiting around. So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you for watching. Feel free to share this on social media. Lots of love to you all. And we will see you next week, where we will go deep into another topic about helping yourself transform your health, transforming your life naturally. Ashish, thank you very much for
Thank
joining
you.
my
Thank
podcast.
you.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye bye.